All that in our Rants and Raves of the Week. Joining me on this week's panel are Adam Riley of WGBH News, Josh Benton of the Neiman Journalism Lab, Dan Kennedy of Northeastern University, and Kelly Crossley of WGBH News. Well, it's hard to take a pass on this month's Boston Magazine. A diminished Bob Kraft appears on the cover beneath the headline, "I'm Robert Kraft. Do you know who I am?" Since everyone does, we wondered, what's the story here? Some of us are still wondering. Inside Boston Magazine, the article is entitled Incomplete and comes complete with a color-by-numbers diagram of Bob Kraft that's, well, incomplete.
It's intercepted by Malcolm Butler.
It's been 9 months since the Patriots captured a 4th Super Bowl title. But as author Robert Huber reminds us, the shadow of Deflategate has dogged the team and its owner, Robert Kraft.
I'm going to accept reluctantly what he has given to us.
The refrain in Huber's piece is that there's something off about Robert Kraft. From his swing between rage and desperation in trying to control Deflategate, to his out-of-the-blue calls to offer money to nonprofits, to taking 19 football Hall of Famers to Israel last spring. So what is off? Boston Globe sports writer Dan Shaughnessy told Beat the Press, "After reading the beginning of the article, I was looking for more, and I'm not sure it was delivered." Well, I'm sure it wasn't. Meanwhile, author Huber takes several potshots at Kraft. Among them, that cavorting with actress Ricky Noel-Lander is unseemly.
But I've dropped a lot of cash here.
May have a point there. And Huber quotes a passel of mostly anonymous businessmen saying Kraft only looks out for one person, Bob Kraft. As to why a guy with billions of dollars, 4 Super Bowl rings, and a reputation for boundless generosity is desperate for our attention, don't look to this article to tell you. This is a puzzle to me because it appears that Bob Kraft posed for the cover photograph. That's how it appears to me, unless they got it from, there was a photo credit. I know for a fact that Bob was asked to participate in the article. He declined. That might have been a mistake. This Robert Huber is a well-known Philadelphia Magazine writer who's known actually for kind of sort of stirring the pot a little bit. He's written a couple things that have done that. I did reach out to him. I made a mistake. I'm sure I sent it to the wrong email and it bounced, so I'm sorry about that. I wasn't able to contact him. But the question that he raised over and over, or the point he raised about Bob Kraft being off, he didn't really substantiate. And, you know, to point to the fact that he's dating a young woman, I mean, a lot of men do that. It's not like that's something off, and his wife did die 4 years ago in 2011. He's entitled to do that. His sons say, hey, he needs companionship, but then pointed to things like he took 19 Hall of Fame football players to Israel. That's off, and he paid for it?
It was a strange piece. I think a lot of the times for big magazine stories like this, it comes down to packaging. And I think if you looked at that cover and read the "I'm Robert Kraft, do you know who I am?" When I first saw that in the grocery store, I thought that was like an interaction with a waiter. Like, do you know who I am?
Exactly. I grabbed it right off the
in an angry sort of, do you know who I am? When in fact in the story it's revealed that that's actually a line from him calling a nonprofit that he was out of the blue going to give a lot of money to, and where he honestly couldn't be sure if this person who was answering the phone would know who he was. It did really feel like an attempt to promise something up front and then not to deliver. I wonder if the photo, for example, was from some previous Boston Magazine shoot, because presumably he might have done some other shoot in the past, however many years.
Watching the nodding heads here, this may be one of those cases where we're all sort of in agreement. I mean, I too felt like it was a premise in search of evidence to back it up. And I didn't think that the evidence that was trotted out to show there's something a bit off about him really made the case. I mean, one of the examples, his handling of Deflategate, I'm not a huge Patriots fan, but I'm aware of what's been going on. And my understanding is that his response was actually very logical, that he accepted the NFL's punishment early on because he thought it would lead to the sanctions or penalties ultimately being lifted. And then when that didn't happen, as it usually does, he was ticked off. To me, that's reasonable. Also, nothing odd, as you said, about an older guy getting together with a younger woman, especially after his clearly beloved wife of many years has passed away. And then, if he wants to call a nonprofit and give them a whole bunch of money, and even if it's a self-aggrandizing, do you know who I am, or a coy sort of thing, that's kind of his right. By the way, I learned more about his charitable endeavors in this piece than in anywhere in the Boston media up until I read this.
Yeah, I agree. Well, as you said, Adam, I think we're all going to be in agreement here. I mean, the Bob Kraft who comes through in the piece is a prominent billionaire who does an awful lot of good in the world and has a big ego. Are we surprised by any of this? No, not at all. And I thought that the picking on him for going out with a much younger woman was particularly uncalled for. I mean, his own kids say that he was really despondent after his wife's death for a long time until he was able to find companionship with somebody else. And she does happen to be much younger. So what?
Yeah, all the stuff that I would want to know about, which I thought the headline promised, is really none of my business. and he didn't provide most of it. My feeling is that, it's his business. He wants to give his money away. That if he wants to, make people go through a questionnaire before he gives them $300,000, that's his business. I don't really, unless it's damaging in some way.
Kelly,
what are you talking
apparently
about?
there were business associates who had bad things to say. This guy, other than Charlie Sarkis, who is frankly not in good health, he didn't get anybody on the record. He had some people kind of just saying it, but apparently there is, an underbelly of people who don't like Bob.
But
he
some
didn't
of that
have
stuff
it.
was really weak sauce
Yes,
too. Like,
right.
he negotiates with you and he flatters you so much, compliments you on your time. Well,
He drives a hard deal, like,
Yeah.
as opposed to other billionaires.
Yeah, I just don't get it. Yeah. So,
Anyway,
oh well,
missed
all
that
right.
one.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mr. Huber.